Welcome to the Ages of Rock podcast with your hosts Bill Algie, Dennis Talbot, and Alan Tate. We are three guys who have one thing in common, a love of rock and roll. Our goal is to talk about all things rock. We hope you find this show intriguing, funny, and occasionally highly opinionated. Enjoy! All right, welcome to Ages of Rock podcast, episode number 27. This week we have a special guest, my friend Trapper Crane here from Tampa, the Tampa Bay area. We're going to talk this week about bands who have had major or minor lineup changes and how some of them did really well and some of them flopped like a lead balloon. So, who wants to go first, Trapper?
Well, how about the big elephant in the room? 1980, you had the two biggest hits, Back in Black and Heaven and Hell. Two completely different, AC/DC and then Sabbath. Two completely different scenarios. One singer died and the other was kicked out of the group. So I'm going to throw it out to the group there. I mean, what is it, the years, the change in music scene, do you think? Or because you can't just say, well, it's one group was, because AC/DC, I mean, they had the biggest hit with Highway to Hell right before Bond died. So, and then Sabbath, they were flopping pretty bad right before they kicked out Ozzy. So, what do you think? Is this just the change in music genre? Do you think it worked 4 years before, or just coincidence?
Personally, I think AC/DC, as far as that was concerned, Back in Black was the album. I mean, it was the album. Those songs. I mean, that was a hit-filled album.
Well, yeah, you notice too, like with both albums, it's a change in music direction too.
Right. Exactly.
Back in Black was a big change in music style for AC/DC, and then Heaven and Hell was a more melodic change for Black Sabbath too. So
Back in Black was made for the radio. I mean, it was a hard rock album made for the radio. I mean, look how many hits were on the radio and how many times over the years they've actually worn those songs out, I just think it's just,
to that point, though, I think specifically like with Back in Black, I mean, you had a change in the music scene, sort of the days of Urgent or even Call on Dr. Love, the sort of slower tempo, more quote unquote hard rock tunes. 1980 ushered in heavy metal,
right?
And that's
definitely more aggressive. Definitely much more aggressive.
It's a heavier album.
I think both those albums probably were influenced not only by the scene but by the new, the new lead singers. I think that really changed, and it was that when you talk about changes with lead singers and bands, I think when they try to just rehash what they were doing before with a new lead singer, I don't think that usually works very well. I think when they try to take a little bit different turn, and maybe invent it a little bit differently, or I don't know, massage it a little bit to where it's got a little bit different feel to it, then I think that helps it break away from just the old stuff. So, like AC/DC, the hotter, the Highway to Hell album was a great album, and it had, like what Dennis said, it had some really good stuff on it. And I don't, you always have to wonder, would Back in Black be the same album with Bon Scott? And, or would, you don't know. I mean, you have no way of knowing. But I think that, I think there's a couple of different factors. I think the change in who the lead singer was and his influence, and I do think the music scene was changing at that time. I don't think those two albums changed the music scene necessarily. I think
they rode the wave.
So they were part of that. But for me, honestly, I thought the Heaven and Hell album was a really good album. I liked it a lot better. I don't like some of the old Black Sabbath stuff. The dark. Because it's just not something that I really kind of. For me, that was the 70s.
That was your dad. Well, that was your parents or your older.
No, my dad would never listen to that.
But I'm saying, to me, kids in the 80s,
that would be generation music.
Yeah, different generation. And I think it ran its course. And Black Sabbath, even though they made a change in the singers, they had run their course. AC/DC was a little fairly newer.
Yeah.
And they're not as dangerous. I think people associate Black Sabbath with a more evil-y kind of type rock, the dark, side. AC/DC, even though they're Highway to Hell and stuff, they're
They're a party band.
they're sing-alongs, and they're, like you said, they're a party band. They're not as evil as a Black Sabbath.
Well, when you hang upside down crosses and pentagrams, you have a tendency.
Yeah. Angus is doing this, but that's kind of funny. That's
you have double. You have little horns. You sell those that light up at the shows. You have a tendency to get a little following that.
Right.
One of the things about the AC/DC album, not only did they change singers, but they changed producers.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, that's true.
Didn't Mutt Lang, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Mutt Lang, yeah.
He produced the Back in Black album.
Right. So
I think, he is very good at getting a band to push themselves and become better, So I think that probably had something to do with why that album was as successful as it was. Now, I'm not sure who produced the Heaven and Hell album.
Oh, it's Martin Birch.
However, they did get a singer who has like Ozzy, he has a very unique vocal range, but he has a wider vocal range. So I think they could do more with their music because their vocalist could do more. So maybe that's why that did better.
Well, and I think he was sober. I mean, honestly, that does play into it,
Yeah, it does
to a degree. I mean, not a big, whatever, but I think there is some legitimacy to that.
Well, the one thing too, you got to look at it this way: if looking at not just the bands and who was in the bands, look at the two albums. Which one had more radio possibilities?
Back in Black.
That's what I'm saying. That's why the one was more successful than the other. I really think so, because the radio ran with it. MTV, they ran with it. They didn't run with it.
There's no question about it. I mean,
I think that was they had
the radio.
Right, and that's why it's going to be more popular and I think be more successful. I think you're going to get more fans. Your Black Sabbath people, you probably pissed a few people off when they got rid of Ozzy, so that their fan base probably went down at that point. And with the new singer, I don't think that they gained that much because they didn't have the radio airplay. AC/DC, brought Brian Johnson in, but along with bringing a new singer in, they brought in a really great album that was actually radio play. So what fans? But the thing is too that they didn't alienate their fans because Bon Scott died. Bon Scott was not
true.
fired.
That's a difference.
You got a sympathy, for the band. It's like, oh man, that's terrible. Let's see, man, they get to see what this new guy is going to do. So you're going to get. I think that's why it's going to happen.
Okay, so let's shake it up a little bit.
But there are still people who don't like Brian Johnson. They're the Bon Scott era all the way. Right. Excuse me. Go ahead, Bill.
So let's shake it up a little bit. So does Axl Rose do an album with AC/DC?
No.
I don't think so because he just got Slash back in Guns N' Roses, so I can't.
Well, I know that, but as we're talking about this thing, how would that go over? If they did that, how do you think that would go over?
I think it would be interesting, but I don't think it would go over very well.
I don't think so either.
I think they're, with
it's too many anti
Axl. Phil Rudd, dug his own grave,
right?
Get himself kicked out of the band. Obviously Malcolm couldn't help what happened to him,
right?
But for them to basically unceremoniously boot Brian Johnson,
it's pissed a lot of people off.
That really rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way.
Yeah, I don't think
it's the stadiums are selling out.
I know the stadiums are selling out, but I don't think an album would sell that well.
All right.
I don't know.
Not that I've ever been wrong.
No, the three of us talked about how ridiculous this was and how horrible it was going to sound, and Axl's an idiot, and everything else. And then you see the first video clips, and it's like, wow, that's not too bad.
Well, which one do you think we'll see first? You think we're going to see AC/DC album with him singing on there, or are we going to get a new Guns N' Roses album?
I think you would see an AC/DC album with,
long before
with Axl before you ever see another Guns N' Roses album.
It took Chinese Democracy 20 years to get
yeah, that's an ego trip thing going on in that band.
Yeah, I don't think so, and I think Slash is going to do this as this is never going to happen. What was their tour called? This thing that was never supposed to happen, or whatever that tour is.
Not in this lifetime.
There you go.
This lifetime, yeah.
But Slash is, and it couldn't have happened in a worse time for Slash, Because Slash is on top of the world, dude. He's been successful. Alan, go strangle that dog.
That's Ted's dog.
Oh,
Ted's talk.
oh, Ted, don't worry about your dog. You're fine. Thought it was Alan's.
That's awesome. We have a guest on the show, and one of the guys on the
and
show.
by the way,
said, hey, go
Alan,
choke
what
the
happened?
dog. That's awesome.
Last week, you actually cut out the funniest part of the show. Did you notice that, Bill? The dog's out was cut out.
Oh, he did?
I did, yeah.
Cut it out.
Jackass.
Well, I was gonna
Jackass.
cut the part out where I said that I was gonna take a break to let the dogs out, and then by the time I'd cut that and put it in the video and I started editing the other one, I was like, oh man, I forgot about that. So I had to cut it out. Otherwise, it just made.
So
you
I was like,
guys
Kelly, you're gonna think this is so funny, and it's like, what the hell happened to it? All right.
She's
anyway,
like-
So
sorry.
Ted, what are you thinking? What do you think about that?
Well, what about the Motley Crue album? Because you were saying to your previous examples, both with Heaven and Hell and Black and Black, they changed to the new singer. The Motley Crue did that with John Corabi as well. Do you think that was too drastic of a change sound-wise?
I think
That pretty much flopped. That
well,
pretty
I
much
think
flopped.
they were following they were trying to follow the grunge trend.
yeah. The
And
music's
had-
terrible.
had it
The
been-
music's
it-
not good.
Well,
think.
I think you're wrong, but that's my opinion.
Well.
But I think had they done that album as something other than Motley Crue, it probably would have done fine. You know,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
You think it's just
Motley Jam or
is that
Pearl
because
Crew.
is that
you know.
because the difference between grunge and heavy metal is too big of a difference compared to heavy metal to hard rock? And they were trying to follow the grunge scene, to your point, Al?
I think that
Is
you know,
grunge too big of a leap for Motley Crue fans? That sound?
well,
yeah, I
you
think
know,
so.
Motley Crue got started in the early '80s, so you know, Dennis and Bill are both 4 or 5 years older than I am.
Right.
So to me, it wasn't that much of a leap, you know. But I think for a lot of and don't take this the wrong way, you old bastards, but for the older Motley Crue fans, you know, it was a big difference. Well, I figured I'd just cut you off before you.
But the
cut
thing
me
that
off.
got us into Motley Crue at the very beginning was that kind of Kiss-esque
Glam.
look that
Glam
they
style.
had. Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't really glam because they were more the black leather.
Yeah.
They were
When they started, it was the
anti-glam.
black
They
leather
were-
stuff,
They
and-
were. It wasn't until Theater of Pain when they got all pinked up and stuff like that.
That's when the true
Right.
Motley Crue fans started falling off, is when
But
they
see,
went glam.
Exactly. The first two albums. I mean, hell, Shout at the Devil, man. Those Looks That Kill,
That's a
those
good album,
videos.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and though they were black leather, you know, they had the it was black and white. As soon as they started throwing pink in there, it kind of threw me kind of off the side. I was like, "Damn, I'm done." You know, they follow the trend.
I still like them. I just think that part of what happened to them was I think the heavy metal fans were trying to hang on to heavy metal,
Right.
and as people tried to move to that grunge thing, they just didn't want to go, and they weren't willing to go with them. And I
Like
think
Al
that's
with
what
Carnival of Souls. Al
Yeah,
to this day still can't embrace that album.
Well, I mean,
I love that album. That's
I do
one,
too.
That's
I
probably one
love-
of my favorite
that's my
albums.
favorite
top
album.
5
One of my
albums. I
favorites.
love that album. But
As
it's
a
just weird 'cause we're
non,
having this,
you know, if they put that out as anything other than Kiss, I think it probably would have done better.
Oh.
You know, because they were following. Of course, by the time they followed that trend
That's
was already
96.
gone.
Yeah.
You know, because that came out in '97. But I know they were working on it in 94, 95 because when we were at the
Conventions,
official
they were-
conventions,
yeah.
they were talking about some of that stuff.
Hell, they already had the artwork for the album done at that point. And
Yeah.
they're talking about how great the songs were, and you know, we were
do they sound just like Detroit Rock City?
no.
Yeah, if
Oh.
Detroit
Well,
Rock
I think
City,
that was-
if
I mean,
Detroit
those-
Rock City was tuned down a step and a half.
When did
Yeah.
we start getting those bootlegs of that album? When did that happen? Do you remember what year that was, or was it right after
That was in
would have been
95.
95, 96, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember getting an early version of it. I mean, it was not very good, but it was basically the album. It was just a very shitty quality of that album.
Yeah.
There was no mix difference hardly in the one that I got. You know,
Yeah, the one I have is not much different.
no, the sound was just a little bit like it had been recorded with a tape recorder. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't good quality, but the mix was the same. I don't think there was any difference.
Well,
Okay,
I
so
was-
what about 1990? You had Foreigner and Deep Purple both quit or get rid of their famous singers for two other singers, and both albums flopped. Foreigner released, what was it? Unusual Heat, And I remember hearing some of that album. It's not bad. It's not that big of a departure music-wise. And then Deep Purple got Joel and Turner to sing.
Right.
That's a little bit more of a departure. But both albums flopped.
Hi, random guest.
I don't think though. Foreigner, that album, did it have
think-
any radio hits on that at all?
Unusual Heat. Not that I'm aware of.
Low Down and Dirty, position number 4, mainstream rock tracks. So,
Yes,
I mean,
I
what the hell's that? That's
I don't remember those at all.
That's
I
something
think, though,
Billboard makes
Foreigner-
up to put stuff they don't know what to do with on the pop charts.
I think though
Yeah.
Foreigner kind of had
That's what it is.
Foreigner at that point too had kind of run its course. I mean, they were a mainstay of the late '70s. One of the
Late 70s and early 80s, you couldn't touch Foreigner.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they were one of the the original stadium bands. The big time stadium bands.
Yeah.
And and they cranked out hits. But I think that they kind of ran their course. I really do. I think that they kind of toward the end.
And Deep Purple was kind of they were kind of petering out after the reunion too.
Right, exactly.
The last album with Gillan before that didn't sell as well as Perfect Strangers. So
Right. See,
It could
Perfect
be-
Strangers is good. I like that. I do like that a lot. But that's the
Yeah,
last thing I really
Blueprint,
remember.
I remember back in that day, whenever lead singers left bands, I just kind of became disengaged. So
Right.
quite right.
yeah, just
Oh, yeah.
Motley, when Vince left Motley Crue, I mean, not that John Corabi's a bad singer. I don't think John
Right.
Corabi's a bad singer. It's just I don't want to hear somebody else sing
To me, it's a
Shout
different
at the
band.
devil.
"Shout at the Devil" or
Right.
"Too Fast for Love."
Well,
that's
you
not-
know, and I
so-
think you're not the only one that feels that way. There are a lot of bands that I was that way about,
Which one's Al?
Well, what's funny is Journey is a perfect example. When they had
Yeah.
Steve Perry, you couldn't touch them. He's out of the band. What's that fella's name? Steve Agari.
I don't.
He was in the band. They did okay. They put out an album. Whatever. Then they get rid of him. And Arnel, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Panada, the guy from the Philippines.
Right.
They're tearing it up now.
Right.
They pretty well wore
But
through
they're
him
not
'cause
really
I
doing
think
any
his-
new stuff, though.
But
I mean,
yes, they are. They've put out a couple of new albums, and they do 2 or 3 of those new
do they?
songs
Okay. Well, I just really haven't
on
heard.
their live show, and it sounds awful because I cannot remember the name. My friend and I went and saw them up at Deer Creek or Verizon or whatever it's called now up in Indy
Klipsch.
Right.
2 or 3 years ago, and they did 1 or 2 of the songs off of their new album, and they were really good. I was like, man, why is that not on the radio?
Right.
But of course, it's on classic rock radio. That's the only place you're going to get it.
Right.
FM.
I mean, my biggest example of what we're talking about, though, is the fact of that, I love Van Halen. I love Sammy Hagar before he became in Van Halen, but whenever it got to be Van Hagar, I hated both bands. I hated
See,
both of them.
now I'm just the opposite. I liked Van Halen better with
Me
Sammy
too.
Hagar. But of course, I think that has to do with
The singer.
I was a teenager. Well, no, not necessarily the singer, but I was a teenager when that happened, and they went more radio-friendly pop music, and that's what I was into at the time.
Yeah, see,
So I think things like that also play a role in it. Going
Sammy had some
going
great
back to
tunes.
AC/DC and Brian Johnson.
Yeah, you have to get a new fan base. You have
Right.
to get a new fan base with a new singer.
But that goes right back to what we talked about last week, Alan, because we talked about how the teenagers rule the radio,
Right.
which rules what gets played, which rules what records get sold, to the most part, in the big picture. Not necessarily in each individual genre, but when we talked last week about our band's going to be around 20 years from now, well, they won't be like they are now. And I think that your point's very well taken.
Right.
For me, I liked Van Halen, and I really liked Van Hagar to a point. And I liked the first couple of albums, and then after that, it just got to be. To me, I thought you could definitely tell that Eddie was off the reservation.
Yeah. I will agree with that.
It was just
5150 and OU812 were fantastic.
5150,
I'll give
OU812
you-
were
I'll give
great
you
albums, and after
5150.
those 2 albums, it just went. To
Well,
You didn't like Frontal Alpha Current Knowledge?
now
I liked a
I like
couple of
that
songs
one.
off
I
of it,
thought
but
that one
Not
was really
balance.
good.
Not the whole
Balance.
thing.
Is,
Balance sucked balls.
Oh, it's terrible.
Horrible.
Horrible. Yeah, exactly.
Come on, Bill, say it.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I've not listened to that whole album.
It's terrible.
I listened
It's
to
not as bad
couple
as
songs on it.
Van
Went,
Halen
I
3,
know I'm not wasting my
but
time.
it's which we want. Gary Sharon basically almost fucking murdered that band.
So I
But-
disagree. I don't think it was Gary. You're right. The album
That was
is
Eddie's
terrible,
fault,
but
though.
It's
Yeah.
not Gary's fault at all.
No, it's not
think,
Gary.
I actually think he was a brilliant choice for lead singer.
Well, I have a bootleg of that tour, and Sharon brought it with the Van Halen stuff. He brought it with the Van Hagar stuff,
Yeah, I mean,
and he
was
brought it
perfect
with the
choice.
Van Sharon stuff.
No.
I mean,
He's a good. I know he's a
a
good
great
singer.
frontman.
I just meant that era of that band. That mixture, I think, was bad. I just think it wasn't.
I just think the album was bad, but that's I
Well,
mean-
that too. Eddie was probably at his worst at that point.
right.
Very, he was completely out of control.
What all concoction can I mix together and consume and make an album?
Yeah. But no,
Well, that was the record company too. They were wanting a certain sound, and Eddie kept bringing. I know Eddie kept bringing stuff to the record companies. Like, no, and they kept getting a remix till you got like some bad clone of Van Hagar. Because I remember hearing the first song on the radio, I was like, wow, sounds like Van Halen, but that sounds like Sammy.
right.
I don't know how you guys thought about this, but when I first heard it, I thought it sounded like Sammy, but I was like, but that doesn't make any sense because Sammy's not in the band.
Right.
So I was confused more than anything, and I thought the music was way poorly mixed. But some of the songs came out a lot better live, though, too.
Right. When Van Hagar first, whenever I knew that the David Lee Roth era was gone, then Eddie and Sammy played together at, I think it was at Farm Aid, I believe, or one of those shows where they came
Yeah.
out and did One Way to Rock, and they're both changing guitar licks, and I'm like thinking, then when they said they're going to get together, I was really hoping, because Sammy is a good guitar player. I mean, he's not Eddie Van Halen, but he's a damn good guitar player.
He can hold his
Yeah.
own.
And I thought we were going to get more of a two guitar, a little bit more that kind of thing. And
Sorry,
it
buddy.
just-
Eddie Van
no.
Ego's in the band.
Exactly. I mean, the only time you got to hear any Sammy play anything is when Ed got on his keyboard kick. But I was hoping for more. I was hoping, like I say, 5150. I can listen to that album, but like I said, once they got into the other stuff, OU 812, I was done. I was like, you know what? This is not what I signed up for. There's other bands that I'd rather listen to.
I didn't know you could sign up for this stuff.
I didn't.
Send your money. You can sign up for anything.
I dropped the pen. I didn't sign up.
There you go.
So
But anyway.
why does it work for Foreigner and Journey now, whereas it didn't work before? But Journey never changed lead singers in the '80s, but Foreigner tried it once before and it flopped. So why does it work for them now? Is it
Journey-
because-
I think it has to do with part
Nostalgia now.
of it is timing,
Yeah.
and part of it is who they picked. Because I think the first time Foreigner tried a new singer, there
was it
wasn't
unknown.
there wasn't really a market for Foreigner.
Right.
As to where now we're all
It's a nostalgia.
it's a nostalgia
it's all-
thing,
yeah.
and
Plus, the
Starts out
fact
nostalgia.
that the guy they got for Foreigner now and the guy they got for Journey now sounds just like the original lead singers are very close. So that way you're getting that sound. That's
Right,
what I think.
that definitely has
The
a
guy
lot
for
to do with
Foreigner
it.
now is fantastic. That guy
Kelly
is a great
Hansen?
singer. Yes, he's a fantastic.
All we
singer.
can see is your finger. You got to get behind Ted.
Don't give us the finger. We're not used to getting the finger.
I should have said that was the wrong finger.
Hibachi place.
Write down the name of it. I'll find. I'm
It's right there, right there, right next to the Goodwill, the China Wall.
Okay. I need you guys at 12.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
That's all right.
No problem. I think it has to do with.
Journey came back. Both all those bands kind of had a resurgence. Styx had a resurgence in the mid 2000s.
Well, they had
Journey,
it was '97 when Styx got back together because I took my dad to see them for Father's Day. 'Cause they They came to Evansville,
But there again,
Well,
they don't have
Kiss
Dennis,
kind of had that nostalgia thing going in late. That's why it was perfect timing for the Union tour too.
It was also that's the only card they had left to play,
right.
Well, that's true too.
which is why
But it
Carnival
worked.
Souls
It
didn't come
didn't
out.
work. Well, it did, but it still worked. It could have flopped. I'm saying. I mean, if they. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
that
okay, take right now with say Gene and Paul, that thing that they had here a few weeks ago got to be extremely blown up, and he fired Paul. It's done. It's done at that point. There's nobody they can bring in. I mean, it's
No,
done.
I agree. I think that brings up an interesting point too. Could either Gene or Paul have been replaced in 76?
No.
Even that early on?
Well,
In 76? Yes.
76, 75?
Yes.
I think it could have been possible.
Probably. Yeah. 77 on? No.
Yeah. Well, after Destroyer, I don't think it's possible. But pre-Destroyer
After Love Gun, it couldn't have been. No, I don't think Gene or Paul. I don't think it could have been. It was salvageable with Peter or Ace.
I don't know. I'd have to argue that a little bit, only because I think that when the 80s came and it became Paul's band, Paul's band.
Mm-hmm.
I think that had Gene walked away then, nobody
would have noticed.
I don't think people would have noticed. I think they would have,
but they weren't in makeup.
Well, but even if you'd have put,
demon.
but then you would have done the whole thing you would have done anyway, where you would have done they could have done a reunion with all four original members again, and then but I just. I think he had separated himself.
Too.
I'm sorry.
Lineup changes worked in the 80s too, so they had that too.
And they were going through that. That was happening because people were quitting the band and they were bringing other people in. And I think it would have been difficult. Yeah, but could it have worked? I think it probably
couldn't have replaced Paul, but they could have replaced Gene.
Could not have replaced Paul.
Gene was out to lunch anyway.
Yeah, because he wasn't.
But I don't think you can replace Gene.
It was a timing
during
thing.
the makeup's what I was saying. During the makeup era, when they took off the makeup with Lick It Up, you could have replaced anybody but Paul at that point.
But you know what? You could have replaced Gene even during the makeup era, because if you could get Sparrow or one of those guys to act just like that, nobody would ever notice. It wouldn't have mattered.
Call him. It's like from now on, his name is Gene.
Yeah, but exactly.
And you could have pulled it off. I mean, because Spiral is a mirror image of
yeah,
Gene.
but you're not gonna get Michael Anthony's not gonna go in and become in Kiss. That's not gonna work because that's not the same. That's not gonna work.
You're right.
But
the same token, that brings up an interesting point because they want Eddie Van Halen to replace Ace, and
that would have been a nightmare.
That would have never worked.
That had never worked.
Never worked.
They did that. His name was Vinny, and it worked just like it. I mean, really, that's what happened with Vinny. That's exactly what happened. It was the same type of scenario. I mean, obviously, Vinny didn't have the pop. Was not in a band that was to the level of Van Halen, but it was the same ego trip thing, and it would have ended the same way. Maybe not in Evansville, Indiana, but I think it would have ended up with.
I want to throw something out there. You said that you could put Spiro in Gene's place and nobody would have noticed. I believe they would have noticed when Gene stopped forgetting the words. Like, he got through the whole show without messing up a song. So that would have been your clue right there.
That's probably true.
Well, do you think it's different, like even in a band like Kiss, when you replace the lead guitar player versus, well, let's talk about the guitar players, for instance, or just the minor players in major bands. Do you think it's a little bit different when you replace a minor player versus a major player?
Well, in Kiss, it's kind of hard to say replace a minor player because each character had its own personality and had its own fan base.
Well, even in Kiss, in general, I mean, I think that question is in general, right?
It depends on the band. It depends on the band.
I think
because if the band depends on a unique sound, i.e. Van Halen, you replaced Eddie Van Halen in that band,
the sound is gone.
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
Now
look at Guns N' Roses when it turned into the Axl Rose band.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Well, and Axl I don't think Axl really wrote much of the music. I mean, I know he plays some of the instruments, but I don't think he really, he doesn't play guitar per se, I don't think, really.
I mean, up until,
but
first.
You're talking about the sound.
Right.
And
sound's part of it, isn't it?
Well, every single guitar player that Axl has in Guns N' Roses pretty much plays the same stuff that Slash plays. You got the Les Paul, you got the Marshall amps, that is part of the sound, and a lot of those guys are pretty good at mimicking Slash's sound. So,
but look at Ozzy when Randy Rhoads got killed in that plane crash. Ozzy's first deal was Brad Gillis came out. Brad Gillis could play the rhythm parts of the song the same, but his leads were completely different. Now you can get 15 people who can sound just like Randy Rhoads. But when he brought Jakey in, Jakey was different. Zach's got his own
they
struggled.
Style.
they struggled. So when you got to now, you say like, okay, say like Foreigner or Journey, they're not. I mean, Neil Sean has his own way, but it can be copied. It's not that hard. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be somebody who can do it. But if you've got a unique person who has a style, because there is the Randy Rhoads style, there is the Eddie Van Halen style, there is this kind of style. If you're in a generic, band A, you can probably find somebody who sounds fairly similar, and you can replace them. But if it's somebody spectacular, it's going to be different.
Yeah. So this is probably gonna be wrong, so somebody's gonna have to correct it. I know it. Wizard of Oz, Diary of a Madman. Were all and I can't remember the album that followed that. Were all three of those albums Randy Rhoads?
No, just the two.
No, first two. Blizzard
Just
and
the first two.
Or,
Okay. So and that was
Diary.
the two biggest selling albums that Ozzy had, right? Probably.
Yeah, but also you got to remember too, at the time though.
So when they changed,
they were big hits, but they weren't like the massive hits that they are today.
Right.
They were hits, yes, but they weren't like massive like they are today. Ozzy didn't get massive until
Ozzy was struggling
in the late '80s, right?
Yeah. Well,
it was after he got in the fights with the religious.
Well, when Jakey started,
era.
they got more radio and MTV play and stuff like that. But
he didn't have any videos with Randy at all. So they had radio play, I'm sure, but
right.
So it's a different time too.
Yeah.
We look at it back now with historical mindset, but at the time it was a little bit different.
Yeah, because
Bark at the Moon was. Well, I guess they did a video.
Bark at the Moon. That's the other song.
They did a video for Speak of the Devil, but that album doesn't really count.
Well, they did a Bark at the Moon video.
that was Jakey
Yeah, right.
on it.
That was Jakey Lee.
Yeah.
That was Jakey Lee.
Yeah. It was just, I was thinking about that because of album sales and, trying to figure out
All right.
guitar players and minor. And, I think that minor, well, okay, let's go back to Kiss. So you think about when Peter left the band and they brought in Eric Singer.
Eric Carr.
Eric Carr, sorry.
That's a blasphemy.
So when they brought in Eric Carr,
Somebody who can play the drums.
when they finally let him play, which I think they finally let him play on Creatures, that was a different sound.
Right.
Yeah.
Bombastic.
Kiss
They
became
looked-
a heavy metal band.
They became a different band. And they weren't that band before with Peter Criss in that band. They could never have made that album.
You had a
I don't
swing
think they could
drummer.
never
You had
make-
a
Well, they could have just with the session drummer.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Hey,
Well,
well,
that's what
what's
they
Anton
did.
up to nowadays?
Yeah, I was going to say that's what they did with Dynasty.
Yeah, so
Unless you're in
I just don't-
Australia, and then it's Dynasty.
yeah.
Yeah. So I do think it has to do with the major minor players thing. Does have to do with timing, what's going on in the music scene at the time, and is it going to really change the sound of the band? Because if it isn't going to change the sound of the band, sometimes it doesn't matter.
Well, I think also
on face value, let's talk about Deep Purple for a second. On face value, you wouldn't think a bass player would matter, but when they changed bass players, from Roger Glover to Glenn Hughes, the sound changed because the bass player wrote half the music.
it's a
it
different
wasn't just
groove.
Richie.
That's okay.
It's also
That's
a
true.
different
So it's not
groove,
just playing. It's not just the playing in that piece of it. It's also the musical influence and the writing
music
and
style, music style,
style.
writing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Burnt
Yeah.
is completely different than, but also the music direction changes too. Going back to the style of the singer too, because Coverdale's a different style singer than Gillan, so they changed the style of the sound. But you can't help it. Glover wrote half the music during the Mark II lineup, so when you change out the bass players, that does have an effect. To your point, Bill.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the Creatures of the Night album, you talk about finally letting Eric play, but you also have a different guitar player playing the guitar, even though they purport that it's Ace. Anybody that knows Ace's
anything
style
else is-
knew right away that's not Ace playing guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the combination of the different guitar style and the bombastic drums is what made that such a great album, even though album sales kind of tanked because everybody had written Kiss off after Dynasty.
Unmasked and then Elder.
They didn't like Dynasty, and then Unmasked come out, and everybody's like, "What in the hell is this?"
Mhm.
And then they come out with The Elder, and even though that's one of my favorite albums,
Sorry, just threw up a little bit.
really,
It's not Kiss-like.
that is
No.
not a Kiss album at all. The only song on there, to me, that is very Kiss-like, there were two of them. Dark Light was pretty Kiss-like, I thought, and
Right.
because that was in the style of stuff Paul wrote anyway.
You posted that thing from the Fridays the other night.
Yeah.
I watched that all the way through. It'd been a
I can't
year
hardly
since
watch
I've
it.
seen that. Dude, that's terrible. I had forgot how bad that was. Ace's playing is just terrible.
Well, I
Paul
noticed in
is
the
going
one,
from falsetto to regular. He don't know where to be at.
Right.
He's jumping up and down. God.
well, the best part about it was in the when they did the Oath in the very first, Ace's solo was you're playing the wrong song, dude.
It is.
And that solo was awful. And then when they did
Because he didn't
Paul
play
did the solo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That and their look was just terrible at that point. God, it was just it was not good.
I can't watch it.
Eric Carr looked good.
It just makes me
Yeah.
sick. I can't watch it. I just can't do it.
Eric Carr looked like he was out of place, though, too. He looked like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Well,
he-
and Eric
I think
Carr
Eric
looked like
Carr
a
had
rock
that. This is not what I signed up for. Look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
You
what?
could see that behind the makeup.
Yeah.
You Anyway, yeah, that was rough to watch. I was like, holy crap, this is bad.
Well, what about Aerosmith? Aerosmith changed.
They changed a guitar player for
They
what?
both guitar players, didn't they? I think Brad Whitford led the band too. didn't
Yeah.
For a while, yeah.
I don't even know what album that was. Gems or some crap.
I don't
he?
remember.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. See, I'm not a huge Aerosmith fan.
I'm not a huge Aerosmith.
either.
So when
But it didn't work. I mean,
when,
I guess that's
when those two
but
guys
they
left that
were
band.
Kind of, like they were kind of had the 70s band curse by the late 70s. I think album sales kind of deteriorated a little bit. I believe.
Right.
But that could have been multiple things: drug use affecting live performances, the whole 9 yards.
Drug use affecting songwriting abilities. Drug use affecting showing up for practice.
Right. Well, I saw him at Mesker right before Permanent Vacation came out. Or not? Is it Permanent Vacation or yeah?
Permanent Vacation is the big one that came.
That's what reinvented them. And
Yeah.
then TV and I think, but there again, did they changed? That was who produced that? That was
Bruce
Fairbairn
yeah.
produced the album. Maybe, I don't know. I'm guessing.
Well, they
Totally
switched
get it.
labels. They got on to Geffen.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Kalodner guy, the A&R Kalodner guy, that looks like he should be the fourth member of ZZ Top.
Yeah, the guy with the beard that always sits in the
Yeah,
yoga.
the beard.
Rick
Yeah,
Rubin?
he's in all the videos too.
Yeah.
Is it Rick
he
Rubin?
He reinvented Whitesnake. He reinvented half the bands from the 70s.
Is that Rick Rubin?
No, Kalodner.
I don't know that guy.
He's
He's in the Dude Looks Like a Lady video, and he's also in. You'd recognize him if you saw him
I don't know.
because he's in
Anyway.
half the videos from the 80s.
I just seen him somewhere he was on one of what the hell documentary was it I was just watching the other day, and but he was on there talking, and he's all every time he speaks he always talks real slow and like he's like some kind of Yoda.
That was produced by Bruce Fairbairn.
Okay.
Permanent Vacation was Fairman.
Yeah. Yep.
He's a top-notch producer.
Yeah, and he was doing, so he did.
Well, I think the people who are not fans of Psycho Circus would disagree with you.
I said he's a top-rated producer. I didn't say he was a good producer.
And
No,
you
you
know
said
what? You can only
Psycho
produce,
Circus is crap.
You said top notch. You didn't say top rated.
and you got to look.
Stand
Who,
corrected. Stand corrected.
you can't. You can't.
We can't have you on here without busting your balls at least once.
But there again, if you're
Also
a
find the way
producer,
they are.
if you're a producer, it's like shining up a turd.
All
You
blue
can
ones
only
are
get
fine
one.
the way they are.
You only get to look so good. You can't. So if you're a producer and your people, you're only as good as the people you're working with. So there you go. That
There
tells
you go. Yeah.
Yep.
So who
So
else?
Ted, what are you listening to now?
New bands or old bands?
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
I mean, what do you?
New bands, Scorpion Child, Rival Sons. I just heard a new band my buddy turned me on to called Red Sun Rising.
Yeah, they're going to open
Yeah.
for
That's
somebody.
a really good band. If you like
to-
melodic hard rock, you'd like this band because they have a lot of melodies, especially in the vocals.
They're going out with Three Doors Down, Pop Evil, and Red Sun Rising.
I think I did hear that. Yeah, I don't like the other two bands, but Red Sun Rising is really good.
Yeah, I've heard Pop. I've seen Pop Evil before. They're not very good. I don't think.
They're
They're
crap.
one cookie cutter bands.
Well, they're just
yeah.
yeah.
It's just yeah.
I do like how the newer bands, quote unquote, have finally kind of come around to my style, kind of a return to classic hard rock roots, I guess. Hailstorm's kind of that way.
Yeah.
Well, although I didn't like the last album. I don't know. But you got a lot more of those bands kind of in that vein, more return to good vocals, good guitar licks, more melody. Rival Sons is that way. Without sounding like a retread band.
Yeah.
Right.
That's especially in today's day and age. It's really hard to put out a new band without sounding like somebody else because so much has been done.
Yeah, ask Led Zeppelin when they probably lose this $14 million case about the biggest song they ever did.
Well,
I
What is
saw
this-
that.
now-
What is the song?
now-
What is the
now-
song that they're? Who was the original? They're saying
it's
it
a
was
it's a song by the band Spirit. Now,
Spirit.
for anybody who's dying for a Led Zeppelin reunion, this is probably going to cause it.
They're going to have to make some money.
They're going to make some money to pay for that. So,
Yeah,
What is
that's
the
for
name of
sure.
the song though that Spirit did? Do you
I
remember what?
couldn't tell you.
I was listening to it on the radio the other day. We were like sitting on our way up to Madison and was listening to radio, and they were talking about that. So I guess it starts in June that case. So it'll be interesting. They're just saying what the original the intro is the only thing that they stole off that song. I guess.
Well, I don't even think it was the whole intro. It was just like a few notes or something. I don't know. Those copyright cases are so hard, though,
Yeah.
because a good example of that to me is when the Rolling Stones sued the Verve Pipe for
Right.
Bittersweet Symphony.
Right.
And I've listened to those two songs side by side.
There is some similarities to it.
What about that Kiss song from
Dreamin' from Psycho Circus.
Yeah, Psycho Circus? That's supposedly like an Alice Cooper song or
Yeah,
something?
if you play along with it, it's 18, It's
Is it?
It's the E minor, the
Yeah.
C, and the D, but it's not the whole song that way. It's just like during the chorus.
Okay.
The song from Spirit's called Taurus.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I went to listen to that. Oh, and they're also if you listen to Shandy
It's from Kashmir.
and you listen, there's a Joe Walsh song that is almost exact. The whole first part of it. It's really weird. You can sing along with it and everything. I'll have to find out what that song is.
Yeah, is
You
it?
talking about Shandy? It's like
Yeah.
another song?
It's a Joe Walsh song.
Do you think Paul Stanley can sue himself for ripping off of one of the songs on a solo album?
You can't rip yourself off, but you could. I
Because the
guess.
Sure Know Something riff is in one of the songs on the solo album, and I'm drawing a blank now which one it is. But anyway,
It's either Joe Walsh or James Gang song. I'm gonna try to find that real quick.
I don't know. What do
What
we have?
about the
Any,
Eagles? Are you guys
that's
Eagles
different.
fans? Are you guys Eagles fans at all?
Oh yeah.
Somewhat.
Yep.
Not huge, but somewhat. Yeah.
They had a couple lineup changes, but I think they were
They have a
more
lot.
minor
They've had-
players. They were more minor players. It was never.
No, I don't know. Replacing the lead guitar was a pretty major thing. Because Bernie Leadon, when he left the band, they replaced him with, Don Felder. And then after that, they did a couple albums, I guess, and then they pulled Joe Walsh into the band.
Joe Walsh was just only on Hotel California, I
He
believe.
was on the long run.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yes.
Some Eagles fan you are, Ted.
I never said I was. I just threw it out there because
The hate,
Oh.
man. It's
No,
ridiculous.
that was a good example, though. But, I mean,
Yeah.
you get a band like the Eagles, though, they're only going to have top-notch musicians.
yeah,
Well, think about that. Think about Whitesnake. How many different people have been in Whitesnake?
Right.
I mean,
thousands.
there's been
and
more
the
than
songs,
people
the
in-
earliest songs, that lineup never was big. I mean, John
No.
Sykes. That's the main staple songs. You're Slide It In and all those. If you're a real fan of Whitesnake, not just
Yeah.
one of those MTV fans, but
That would be me.
yeah.
well, and there's a band out now. Do Ted? Do you know who the Dead Daisies are?
Yes,
Okay, have you listened to them?
a little bit. That's got
Oh, so-
Karabi and some other people, right?
Well, it depends on the day. Literally, that is a band that depends on the album you listen to and the cut on the album. It's different people.
Okay.
And well, because I listened to one of the first albums. And I'm like, man, I really like this. And they're like, oh, you need to listen to the next album. And I listened to the next album. I'm like, well, I like it, but it's a little bit different. And then I would go back and look at it. And it's like, it's not any of the same guys. There's like a couple songs. It's like totally like one guy and the rest of them are different. So it's just kind of weird. This is a band that they just have people kind of come in and out. And Doug Aldrich plays there sometimes. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he's with us. Sometimes he's not. It's just real fluid.
They had the touring lineup had Marco Mendoza, I think his name is, from the later version of Whitesnake, and then he played with Thin Lizzy too, and then Krabi was on the touring lineup too. Because when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, Krabi, sweet.
Yeah, but I think it's.
I tell you,
like it. I've listened. I downloaded I think 2 of their albums, and I really like it. It's just their 2 albums are not necessarily the same.
They're
thing.
completely different from each other.
They're really different because they're not the same band, and it's weird. And when you look at
Dennis,
it online,
you mentioned
there's
Whitesnake.
a list of people that are in.
You like Whitesnake pre-Sykes? Like, are you familiar with the real early stuff?
Not really. No, I got into him, like I said, when like the album Slide It In, that album come out. I was into him with that. And then
did you ever go back and listen to the real early stuff?
No, I have not. But I will. I'd like to listen. I need to go back and listen to that.
Well, basically, like the hits that came out on the '87 album,
right?
Crying in the Rain and Here I Go Again, and then later song Fool for Your Lovin'. Those are all old songs from the early 80s. Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to try that. Listen.
Yeah, there were a lot of those Whitesnake songs.
A lot bluesier too, because you had Ian Pace on drums,
right,
and John Lord,
right,
was in the band too. So it's a lot different band. But see, also with that, you're talking the early '80s. That's the MTV era,
right?
That early band was not designed for MTV.
Right.
That was a real band.
Yeah. I mean,
they had a face for radio.
So what you're saying is the older Whitesnake stuff is really called White Deep Snake.
Yeah, right.
Deep Purple Snake or something.
Yeah. What about Styx? Now, Styx tried. Do you think Styx in like 1990? You think they just kind of fizzling out because they tried it without? That's an interesting band because that band's a lot like Kiss in a way because they have like different singers in the band.
That all
play instruments. They replaced Tommy Shaw, who was not an original member, but he was they kind of came into fame with Tommy Shaw, I guess you could say. But they tried to replace it without Tommy Shaw, and I don't think it did.
To me, Tommy Shaw is
a huge influence.
Right.
That wasn't going to work.
Tommy Shaw is Styx to me. I mean, I honestly, I've seen Styx quite a few times. I never got to see him with Dennis Dion. I wish I would have been able to, but I've seen him quite a few times since then. And I tell you what, every time I go, they're awesome. I do like to go see Styx. They replaced, the drummer passed away, and basically drank himself to death. And then the bass player, the few times that I've seen him, they actually bring him back out. He will come out and play.
He still tours with them and does one or two songs.
He only does like 1 or 2 songs, I think.
He comes out toward the end and he'll play a couple songs. But, to me, I mean, even though Dennis, this new guy, he's a decent, he can sing and play, keyboard like Dion. But to me, Tommy Shaw makes it. I think without Tommy Shaw, Styx is not Styx. That's just my personal opinion. But.
Well, what I think is funny is neither Tommy Shaw or James Young are original members, and they basically took over the band.
Right.
James is.
Nope. James,
are you sure about that?
James replaced some other guy that died.
No, that Tommy Shaw replaced the original guitar player.
No, James Young replaced somebody from the first 2 albums.
Billy's going.
Look it up, Ted.
Billy's either cheering or Billy's hating right now. He's like, "Well, now you mother."
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, Bill's like, I got somewhere to be, y'all. Wrap this up.
He's doing this shit. He's like, "Oh, come on."
No, there was James replaced a guy named James Krasinski or something like that.
There was a JC Kurilewski.
Yeah, I got the ski part right.
Yeah, you did.
But I think he was on like the first album or maybe the first 2 albums, and then
Tommy Shaw replaced him, Al.
Yeah, and the two they were I remember that too. That's actually when you guys were talking. What I was looking up was the bass player and drummer were brothers.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to. I was
Okay,
trying to
Ted.
remember.
And then he drank himself to death. He died.
Before I said something, I wanted to know that for sure. So
So,
then-
Ted, I just want to say I stand corrected. I really thought that I had read that JY had replaced JC.
You got
Oh, that's not true.
It's the guitar. It's the guitar.
Oh, wait a minute. Bill said something's not true.
yeah, no, John C. replaced a guy named Tom Nardia who had departed. James or JY was brought in as an extra guitar player,
Okay.
and that was in 1970.
Yeah, that's pre-recording, I believe.
Yeah, it says during the making of Trade Winds or something like that.
Yeah.
TW4 or something like that.
One of my
the
dogs-
original band was formed by the two
quit
brothers and Dennis. And then
One of my
brought-
dogs is digging around in a basket full of pillows trying to get comfortable.
You know, I've seen Kiss. Kiss. I've seen Kiss. I've seen obviously.
Yeah.
I've seen Styx with Dennis DeYoung twice, maybe. 3 times. 3 times actually, because I saw.
With Dennis, you said?
Yeah, I saw him on the Grand Illusion. I saw him on the theater, Paradise Theater, and Mr. Roboto.
Oh, you seen
That right there was the
album.
death
Oh, you
knell
poor
for
bastard.
yeah.
That killed the band.
That
And
killed
then,
the band right there.
And then I saw them. I've seen them a couple times since that. Well, a couple years ago. 2 years ago with when they opened for Def Leppard.
I seen him here at the
Last summer.
center when they
It was last
played.
summer.
When they played Pieces of Eight and the
Grand
other,
Illusion.
yeah, in full from
Yeah.
front to back. That was cool as hell.
I saw Styx when they did their reunion in '97 with DeYoung, and then I've seen them twice, I think, with Tommy Shaw and JY.
Yeah, and I've seen Dennis DeYoung by himself too, with a different backing band.
I would like to see that. I've always heard that it was a really good show.
He sounds great. He sounded
I thought
great.
I thought he had a light problem where he couldn't be in there. That it was real dark or something. Or
No, he was at an amphitheater here in town.
Well,
he said he was light sensitive. That's why he quit. You know,
Yeah,
I think he had a Tommy Shaw sensitivity.
He could have. That's
Yeah.
possible. That's
All right,
possible.
well, I think we've babbled on about stuff long enough here, so we should probably wrap it up. Well, Trapper Crane, Trapper Crane, thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
man.
Thanks, man. It's good having another person on the show to balance off the.
Yeah, we need
You
4
gotta have
people.
somebody to balance out Al.
Yeah, we need 4 people to be wrong about something instead of just 3.
Yeah,
All
usually
right,
it's just
folks. Yeah. All right, folks. On that note, I think me and Bill are both pointing in the wrong direction, so I'll point both ways.
I was pointing at Dennis.
Yeah. Well, you're pointing at Dennis now, but on the
I'm pointing at my
recording, you
nose,
need to be
how's that?
pointing the other way.
Al, are you saying you swing both ways?
I
Yeah,
didn't say-
I
Woo! And on that note, go to agesofrock.com and check us out on all of our social media. Watch the old episodes. Share us with all of your friends. If you hate us, share us with even more people so they can see why you hate us. And on that
I
note,
prefer to be shared with only your
yes,
lady friends, not your
lady
guy.
friends. Yeah. Bill's a liar. Anyway, peace out. See y'all next week.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Ages of Rock podcast. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and most importantly, tell all your friends. Remember, you're never too old to rock. Until the next episode, peace out, folks.